How to distill bourbon. Distilling bourbon whiskey involves a series of steps to transform fermented grain mash into the flavorful and aromatic spirit that bourbon is known for. Here's a general overview of how bourbon is distilled. Grain selection. Bourbon is primarily made from a grain mixture that must contain at least 51% corn. The remaining portion can include other grains like barley, rye, and wheat. Milling and mashing. The grains are ground into a coarse powder and mixed with water to create a mash. Heat is applied to convert the starches in the grains into fermentable sugars. 2. Fermentation. Yeast is added to the mash, initiating the fermentation process. The yeast consumes the sugars, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide. The resulting liquid, known as wash, has a relatively low alcohol content. 3. Distillation. First, distillation, beer stripping. The wash is distilled in a pot still or column still to separate alcohol from impurities and water. This initial distillation creates a higher alcohol content liquid called high wine or low wine. This liquid will be further distilled to create bourbon. Second, distillation, spirits run. The high wine is distilled a second time to increase the alcohol concentration even further. The distiller makes cuts to collect the heart of the distillate, discarding the initial and final portions that contain unwanted compounds. 4. Aging. Barrel maturation. The distilled spirit, known as new make spirit, or white dog, is placed into new charred oak barrels for aging. Bourbon must be aged in new charred oak barrels, and the aging process contributes to the color, flavor, and aroma of the final product. Aging duration. Bourbon must be aged for a minimum of 2 years, although many quality bourbons are aged for much longer to develop complex flavors and characteristics. During aging, the spirit interacts with the wood of the barrel, extracting flavors, colors, and tannins. 5. Bottling. Blending and bottling. After the desired aging period, the bourbon may be blended to achieve a consistent flavor profile. Blending involves mixing different barrels of bourbon to create a balanced final product. The bourbon is often diluted to the desired bottling strength using water. Bottling and packaging. Once the bourbon has been blended and diluted, it is filtered and then bottled. Labels and packaging are added before the bottles are distributed for sale. 6. It's important to note that the specifics of bourbon production can vary based on the distillery's methods, equipment, and recipes. Additionally, bourbon production is regulated by law in the United States, with specific requirements that must be met to label a product as bourbon. These regulations help ensure the quality and authenticity of bourbon whiskey.